Thank you, Yvonne and Greg. All right. Let me get this working. Oh, good. Thought I left it on last week and it still works. Okay. We are on part 11 of our study of the book of Ecclesiastes, getting within a couple chapters of the end. And today we'll be looking at frustration from fools. That frustration seems to be an ongoing theme in the book of Ecclesiastes, that as the author looks around, he can see that things aren't what they should be. Things aren't how we would wish them to be. And that can lead to frustration. And so we are in Ecclesiastes chapter 10. And let's go ahead and read our chapter, Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench. So little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. Even when the fool walks on the road, he lacks sense, and he says to everyone that he is a fool. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as it were an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horses and princes walking on the ground like slaves. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and a serpent will bite in who breaks through a wall. He who quarries stones is hurt by them. He who splits logs is endangered by them. If the iron is blunt and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength. But wisdom helps one to succeed. If the serpent bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage to the charmer. The words of a wise man's mouth win him favor, but the lips of a fool consume him. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is evil madness. A fool multiplies words, though no man knows what is to be, and who can tell him what will be after him? The toil of a fool wearies him, for he does not know the way to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobility, and your princes feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. Even in your thoughts do not curse the king, nor in your bedroom curse the rich. For a bird of the air will carry your voice, and some winged creature will tell the matter. And may God add a blessing to the reading of his word. Father, thank you for your word you have given us. And I pray that your Spirit would apply it to our hearts as we study it, that we would be different because we have studied your word. Father, we thank you for what you will do, and it is in the name of your Son that we pray. Amen. Well, first we come to the danger of fools, verses 1 through 7. And here you have maybe noticed this, that it doesn't take much to ruin something. And the first illustration he gives is that dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench, so little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. Flies aren't that big of an animal. In fact, we've just had a lot of gnats flying around recently, and boy, can they be annoying if you're outside and they want to keep flying in your face and biting you and all of that. But here he's saying you have something that a perfumer made. So it's an oil that smells good, but yet if a bunch of flies fly in it and die, eventually they're going to make that thing stink. That it's going to ruin the ointment, that it no longer will serve its intended purpose. Even though there's lots of oil and lots of spices and all that in there, such a small thing could ruin it. He says, so little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. And the same could even be seen, say, on a car trip, that, you're driving along and for 1,000 miles, you do everything right. And then on the last trip home, maybe the speed limit's 55, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going to go 70 to get there soon, and that's when you see a policeman. And all that safe driving is then outweighed by that big speeding ticket that you'll have to go pay. And so he's saying that it doesn't take much folly to ruin much wisdom. It says, a wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. And as much as you may want to put that on your Facebook account if you're a conservative, That's not what he's talking about. So that whole right and left in politics came during the French Revolution. And so that's not what he's talking about. It's that sometimes people would look at the left-hand way as maybe a way of evil, but it could also just be seen as, for most people, if you're not left-handed, that's your weaker side. That the right is the side of strength and all of that. So it could be that, looking at it that way, or just the wise man and the foolish man are going to go opposite directions. That their ways aren't going to be the same way. They're going in different ways. Their way of life is going to be different. He says, even when a fool walks on the road, he lacks sense. And he says to everyone that he is a fool. So even a fool walking down the road, and this could be literal, that he's just going about his business and everybody can see, wow, that guy's a fool. Or it could be like way of life, like a metaphor for as he walks down the road, how he lives his life, how he conducts himself, shows everyone that he lacks sense and that he's a fool. That the way he lives his life, everyone can see it. And in fact, they said you can actually interpret this two ways from the Hebrew. That it could be that he says to everyone that he's a fool, or he's calling everyone a fool. That it could go either way. And I'm sure you have even met fools that they think they're the smartest one in the room, everyone else is a fool, and by that they're showing, yeah, they're a fool. They can't appreciate intelligence or wisdom from anyone else. It says, if the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. So even here we have some proverbs that are put together and thrown together, not always in context where it's leading from one to the other, but here it says, if you are in the presence of the ruler and his anger rises against you, it's not always the best thing to just get out of his presence. He may see that as an admission of guilt, or maybe if you're there and calm and just, yep, I know I made a mistake, I'm sorry, I'm going to learn from it, and, oh, okay, well, this guy is still a good guy, and assuage his anger that way by being calm. It says, there is an evil that I've seen under the sun, as it were an error proceeding from the ruler. So here, talked about a ruler's anger, and here, well, this evil can happen even from a ruler, that folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horses and princes walking in the ground like slaves. And so here you have a reversal. And basically the reversal is this, that the ruler maybe has some friends that are fools and he puts them in high places. It's like, oh, I got a buddy here, and even though he's not competent for the job, I'm going to set him in a high place. And then he just makes trouble for everyone else. That because of foolishness at the top, things can be reversed even on down the line. And I'm sure we have seen this even in our own lives, that maybe in the working world, you might think, well, why did that guy get promoted? And it's like, oh, he's friends with the boss. Okay, now that makes sense, that those sorts of things happen. And also, what was pointed out is sometimes the wise know what goes along with leadership positions and knows, I don't want any part of that. Like, who here would want to run for president? I sure wouldn't. So you might limit your pool. Oh, well, you got my vote, Harry. That you're going to go through such scrutiny, and any mistake you made in your past is going to be twisted and turned and then blasted out there for everybody to know. And that who would want that? People will hate you just because of your politics. And so you might limit someone that would be a wonderful leader doesn't run because they know politics just isn't worth it and it isn't fun. I'm just going to stay and do what I'm doing. But the point of what he is getting at here is that it doesn't take much foolishness to ruin much wisdom. I think we've all seen that. And you know what? It can even be in our own lives. That you can be doing great, and then one little sin can just affect the rest of your life. One moment of foolishness. Or it can, even if it's not much of what you did in your life, that it still can be huge. just like the claim Planned Parenthood has. Abortion is only 3% of what we do. It's still a huge evil. It doesn't matter if it's just 3%. It's still an evil thing. And so, looking at things that, me going into Walmart and stealing a pair of pants, that was only 5 minutes of my day, Judge. You should let me off. Think the judge is going to? No, that 5 minutes of stupidity is going to get you maybe jail time or a fine or, those sorts of things. So it doesn't take much foolishness to ruin much wisdom. And foolishness in your life will eventually be seen. If we're living foolishly, eventually it's going to be evident to all that it eventually comes out. But then it goes on to the working world and wisdom and success, and how can wisdom help us even in our everyday lives? And there's some debates on verse 8 on whether he's talking about occupations or if he's giving the general wisdom of the day that if, one who digs a pit, in other words, who is setting a trap for someone will fall into it, or whether he's saying if your job is as a farmer and you dig a hole because you need to plant something, so that he who digs a pit will fall into it. It can happen real easy. You're digging in your garden, you make several holes to plant something, you turn around and go get it, your foot goes right in the hole and you twist your ankle. It can happen. Or a serpent will bite him who breaks through a wall, and in those times the mortar that they would use would crumble and it would give a good home for snakes. And so if you were there trying to tear down a wall to make a new wall because it was crumbling, you had to watch. You might get bit by a snake. Or he who quarries stones is hurt by it. Dangerous job. If you're in there trying to bust up rocks and trying to haul it out, a rock could fall on you or something similar that, you could be hurt by the stones. Or he who splits logs is endangered by them. If you're out cutting wood, and I know a couple here that they heat their houses with cut wood, and it's dangerous. You get your hand in the splitter, that can hurt, or if you're swinging the old-fashioned way and miss the log and hit your own shin, you're going to know it, that it's a dangerous thing. That he who splits logs, he's endangered by it. And wisdom will help you foresee how to avoid those dangers. If you're digging a pit and you have to leave it overnight, maybe put a piece of plywood over the top of it. Or if you're busting through a wall, maybe wear some thick gloves so that the snake can't bite through them. Or if you're quarrying stones, just be careful there. Splitting logs, whatever the safety would be there. And he says if the iron is blunt and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength. But wisdom helps one to succeed. So if you're out there trying to cut with a dull axe, it's going to take longer to fell the tree. That just sharpening that, taking the time to sharpen it, can make a huge difference. And it says, if the serpent bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage to the charmer. So wisdom should be applied in a timely way as well. Just like if you got a snake in your house and you're going to call the snake charmer to come charm it so you can get it out of there, it's not going to help much if the snake's already bit you. What's the charmer going to do then? It's not going to help your snake bite. And so that wisdom needs to be applied in a timely manner. So wisdom is helpful even in physical work. We might think a lot in this book of, work of being a ruler and leading people, but here the writer is saying, well, even in physical labor, wisdom is good to have. That is good to work with wisdom, but wisdom must be timely to help. But it must be timely to help. But yet, there is a downfall of fools. Going on, he says, the words of a wise man's mouth win him favor, but the lips of a fool will consume him. That what a fool says will consume him. You get this mental image of the fool's lips, like even stretching out and just taking him out because of his own foolishness. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is evil madness. So all through, the fool is showing he's a fool, and that his words are madness, that his advice is bad. A fool multiplies words, though no man knows what is to be. And who can tell him what will be after him? And so here we see the foolish man likes to talk a lot. That the fool will just be multiplying words, and he will go on and on and on about things that he knows nothing about. And here the writer is talking about the future. Now you might get someone that is saying, well, I know what's going to happen, and goes on and on and on about if you want to plan for the future, you got to do this, this, and this, and it's a sure thing. And they're going on about it, yet they don't know the future. They don't know what is to be. And the toil of the fool wearies him, for he does not know the way to the city. And so here, the toil of the fool, he finds it wearying to the point he doesn't even know the way to the city. And this is an idiom that they had that showing just someone that is so ignorant they don't even know how to get back home is kind of the thing. Or if you take it as a whole, going with what's before it, he goes on and on and on about these grandiose things he knows nothing about, but yet he can't give you directions on how to get to the city. And so that he is not able to help even in those simple of things. So while there may be much wisdom from a wise man, here the fool just is not very helpful, multiplying words and that going on about things he knows nothing about. So be humble about what you know. Realize that you don't know everything, I don't know everything, and always be ready for new information. Always be ready to learn something, always ready to listen. You know what? Hey, I didn't know that. Oh, that's something new. Also be careful of your words. Be careful of what you say, careful of what you might tell others. Be careful of how you talk. But then he goes on to fools in high places, verses 16 to 20. It says, woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobility, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. And so here we have a pair of opposites. One is the king being a child, or maybe not just, like, oh, they're very young, you're ruled by a 2-year-old, but maybe you're ruled by someone who is immature. And so saying that is a bad thing, that immaturity in leadership is a bad thing. And that the princes, the officials, feast in the morning. So instead of eating or feasting at the proper time, which the writer had talked about, enjoy the produce of the land, enjoy what God is giving you. But that comes after work. And here he's saying, nope, they wake up in the morning and they go right to feasting. And at the end of 17, you think, feasting for drunkenness, that they are out there just to party and they are starting in the morning, which usually is a sign that you have a problem if you're starting to party or starting to drink in the morning. That's usually a good sign that someone's an alcoholic. Someone is given completely over to that if they are starting in the morning. And that's the picture the writer has given us of someone that is just going right into it because they want to get drunk. That they want to party and that is their focus in life. And so this would be an immature ruler that instead of looking at his position as one to serve the people and to do his best for the nation, he's like, hey, I've got all the power, so let's party. We got plenty of money. We got, no one can tell us what to do, so we are going to use this just to party. And just woe to you, nation, if that is your ruler. But on the flip side, happy are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobility. So this would be a king who, as a child on up, was taught how to rule. That he was brought up and that's what he was going to do, and he was taught it. He was there in the court with his father learning, okay, this is how you rule, this is how you make good decisions, this is what you should do if maybe the corn crop didn't go as well as it should have, and wisdom and what to do and all of that. That is a good thing for them to have been brought up in it. It says, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. So that those that use food and drink for strength, that it is not something that is just done because, oh, we want to get drunk and party, But no, it is something done at the proper time. And we see a judgment akin to this in Isaiah 3. That Isaiah says, because of your sin, Israel, that you will have children for rulers. That they would have those that are not good kings, those that don't make good decisions. And that was part of God's judgment. And he goes on. And there's some debate here because verse 20 talks about kings again, or 18 and 19 then, about kings, or is it just not random, but a collection of proverbs. But he goes on, he says, through sloth the roof sinks in, and through indolence the house leaks. And so basically here, if you look at home ownership, a whole lot of it is upkeep on the house. Just like you notice an abandoned house out in the country, what eventually happens? The roof starts sagging, there gets a hole in there, and eventually the whole thing just collapsed because no one was there taking care of it. You know, that little drip that started wasn't taken care of, and it became something bigger. Now, if you apply this to kings and kingdoms, he's saying if you imagine the kingdom as a house, if the king isn't taking care of things when they should be taken care of, eventually collapse can come in, just like sagging rafters and a leaky roof, you know, that the economy can go south, or maybe enemies are coming in at the borders and, you know, starting to chip away at those things, that it's not a good thing. Then he says, bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. And so here, that yes, we need bread, we need wine, maybe a little money is needed. That you need food and drink. There's our necessities of life. And so yes, money is a good thing to have, just like it's misquoted that money is the root of all evil. We hear that misquoted a lot. Actually, Paul said the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. And so money in and of itself is not a bad thing, but if you make that the focus of your life, that is where problems come in. That is where you're setting money up as an idol to be worshipped instead of God, and the money is taking the place of God in your life. So is money fine? Do we all need to, you know, take a vow of poverty and live on a commune and all of that? Well, no. God doesn't call us to do that. But money should not be the focus of our lives, and it shouldn't be the idol that we set up. And so, yeah, we do need bread. We do need the necessities of life. Then he goes on, he says, even in your thoughts, do not curse the king, nor in your bedroom curse the rich, for a bird of the air will carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter. And so here he's giving general advice of, you know, if money is needed, if, you know, you need that for the necessities of life, it's not a good idea to curse the king. Even in your bedroom. You know, we've heard the phrase, a little birdie told me, you know, that, you know what? Things get around. And even when we think no one knows, sometimes that gets around. And even entertaining things in your thoughts, you know, maybe your mouth didn't say something, but your face sure did. That, you know, someone says something and they can tell by the look on your face what you think, and think, whoops, I was trying not to give my opinion at all there, but it sure came out. And so that he says, don't curse the king, don't curse the rich. They may find out. And when we even go into the New Testament, we're going to go further than that. We are supposed to pray for those in authority. We are supposed to submit to them as far as we can. You know, if we are told to do something that God says don't do, then, well, of course, disobey and accept the consequences. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did, or Peter and John, who were preaching the gospel and the authorities told them not to. But yet, still, it's not a good idea to go out there on Facebook and just blast whoever's in leadership, no matter what party they're in, or no matter, you know, whether we're for them or against them. That we need to be careful on that, how we do things. So first of all, don't trust in politics. It's going to let you down every time. You know, if you're a Democrat and you get the House, Senate, and presidency is Democrat, you know what? They're going to be able to push things through, and still things are going to be messed up. It's still not going to go perfect. And if you're a Republican, having it all Republican, it's still not going to be perfect. There's still going to be bad things that happen. Don't put your trust in politics. Politics can't save you. In fact, what was that phrase? I forget who said it, the best government is the one that governs least. That, sometimes small government can be a good thing. That the less we are involved, maybe the better, as far as making laws and doing all those things. But I'll step down and quit talking politics. Also, guard how you relate to leaders. Be careful of how you talk about them. Respect the position. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them and always think they're doing a great job and all of that. But be careful of your level of dismissiveness or level of how we will tear down leaders, because we are supposed to respect them. But really, what does it come down to? Well, trust in Christ, who is the true righteous King. What do we have in the Lord's Prayer? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That we are looking for when government will be perfect, and that won't happen until Christ comes back and sets up his kingdom. But right now, you can bow the knee to Christ. Right now, you can become his subject. That through faith in Christ, you can be saved, that he is your king, he is your Lord, that you are following him. And it's not that we earn our way into heaven. It's not that we earn forgiveness of sins. We trust in Christ that his death on the cross paid for our sin. And that he is who he said he is. That he is God in human flesh. That he is Lord and we will be saved. And know that, this old earth, it's going to disappoint us. It's going to turn out bad in so many different ways. And there's good things too. Enjoy those good things. But know that it's not all going to be good until Christ comes back and he rules. Then we will see what true righteous governance is. It is only when Christ is the one who is ruling. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your words you have given us. And Father, may we learn to live with wisdom as we live in light of who you are, as we worship you, and as we try and live in a way that would please you. Father, as we leave this place, may we remember who you are, that Christ is our King, that you are our Father, and that we are serving you and are subjects of your kingdom, and that we are just passing through this world, Lord, but yet our true allegiance lies with you. And it is in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.